Happy Wednesday, folks, and welcome to Food for Thought. For the second week in a row, we're interviewing a friend of the podcast from south of the border, Mark Samuel. Mark is the founder and CEO of IWON Organics, a California-based snack company that makes bold, flavor-infused snacks from plant-based proteins like peas, beans, and brown rice. For context, IWON stands for I'm Winning on Nutrition. IWON is focused on healthy snacking and successful long-term eating habits based on the principles of balanced nutritional profiles made up of healthy proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Their product can be found in major retailers across the United States, and I can personally attest to their deliciousness. Mark has a wealth of knowledge on all things entrepreneurship with over 16 years of startup experience. Mark, welcome to the show. Where does Food for Thought find you today?
I just finished a workout in the garage. My son is finishing up a little bit of a math Zoom in the kitchen, and I'm in a spare bedroom getting this done before we try to head out here and get into the office for a few hours today.
Awesome. That's life in a COVID-19 world. So tell our viewers about IWON and what you guys are all about.
Sure. IWON stands for I'm Winning on Nutrition. We are a plant-based snack company. We make our snacks from peas, beans, and brown rice. They all make up a balanced nutritional profile with protein, fats, and carbohydrates, which is the way that I've always eaten. As far as meals and snacks, I'm a big believer in balanced nutrition for long, sustainable eating habits.
So why food and why snacking? I know you've had a couple other ventures in the fitness space. Was this a matter of building a snack product that you were proud and wanted to eat as somebody who cares about fitness?
This is bigger than a snack or a food brand. We really look at it as a health and wellness platform. And that's just because we have such a long-term vision for the brand and where it can really sit, not just on shelves, but within, people's minds. I'm Winning on Nutrition means so much more than just that. So as far as my background, I've started different companies in different verticals, but the last few have been in health and fitness. I'm a lifelong fitness enthusiast. So I found myself into food a few years ago because I just believed that it was something that I could really dive into. Through my career, now stretching 20 years, I guess, I wanted to find something that I really could not just do long-term, but really, really get into my why, which I talk about openly and often. And that is really to help others. And this is a type of platform that I believe we can do that with. So that's sort of how it found me. And then, a few years later, we are where we're at with our current couple snacks. And we have, big plans for where we're going to be in the next few years.
So taking a deeper dive and kind of going back to the early stages, how did you actually go about building the products that you have now? Did you start with experimenting in your own kitchen? Did you find a co-packer that offered product development services? Where did you start?
As I'd say to anybody who's starting a business, one that they've never been involved with, if it's of interest and a deep passion for them, you got to make some phone calls. So I started there. I made some phone calls to people that I knew were in food and beverage. And then I sort of found myself in front of a co-packer at the time, one that was willing to listen to the ideas that I had and give some feedback as far as how to get there. And that's how it developed as far as sort of concept to commerce originally really was finding a co-packer that was willing to move forward with some ideas and concepts that I had and put them into fruition.
Out of curiosity, have you been able to scale with that co-packer, or, some companies, they outgrow co-packers or they have multiple? How have you managed that as you've grown?
We've actually moved on from that co-packer and by God's grace, have really just found our second one, and it's been our partner thus far. And it's been an amazing partnership that we could really take really, really deep into our growth. But they actually were a sizable co-packer. And I'd leave a note here for anybody who's listening so that they understand it. It really was all about the sale in the beginning. Again, those that are reaching out to a co-packer really of any size, they often don't want to deal with a new concept, new product, new brand, new founder. And so you better have a reason and they better be able to hear it when you're trying to move it forward in getting them to do something for you. So again, in recap, we've moved on from them. But again, they're a great co-packer. They make products for big brands. And we are at our second co-packer, one that we've been at the last couple of years, and one we have an amazing partnership with.
Very cool. How do you view the trade-off between hitting your intended flavor profile when you set out while maintaining the nutritional profile and ingredient deck that is in alignment with your brand's identity?
It took time. Originally, we had started with a chip, which we no longer have. And that was the first identifier, or at least something that I was learning in the first 18 months of building the business, was taste and texture were first, and they needed to be. And I thought that we could get away with a little bit of the nutritional value as being the proposition, but that really doesn't work, at least in my opinion, and at least if you want to grow something that has legs for long-standing value for the consumer. Because I'm a big advocate of the fact that you need something that tastes amazing so that they come back for more. As far as nutritional value, that is there and should be, at least for us, because that's the foundation of our brand as far as balanced nutritional profiles. But you need to find that balance. And for us, we took some time to get there. Again, original product was not where it should have been. We had to keep working at it. And where we're at now is a completely different day than it was day one.
I have some questions on the notion of time, but I'm gonna get to them a bit later when we chat. How do you view distribution strategy for up and coming food brands? A lot of time, these distribution strategies are changing on the fly. I noticed, I think today you guys got into Thrive Market, which congratulations, that's a huge accomplishment. How have you approached that in terms of, a mix of retail, direct to consumer, maybe selling on third party platforms like Amazon? What insight do you have there?
There's probably 12 different ways you could go. Again, as I like to talk openly about our own roadmap and what it's looked like, it's just in order to help others, right? Smaller emerging brands, ones with cash, ones without. I think that falls into why there's so many different ways you could go. But in short, you have one route, which is you've got a ton of cash, right? You got a rich uncle who's going to cut you $1 million. Great. You could probably buy your way into a lot of different areas. That's why there's oftentimes this notion of buying sales. You can do that. I don't think it's a great way to build a business, and I think it's very risky, but the reality is it can be done because you can get yourself into different opportunities, both on direct to consumer and in brick and mortar. So you can move yourself up the chain or up the ladder a little bit faster if you have cash. But if we're going to talk about the majority of us who are building brick by brick, pretty tight on cash, maybe raising a little bit here and there to get you to the next sort of move of your business, I would say that just idea of brick by brick is a great mode. One is direct to consumer is sort of the low hanging fruit that you need to do out the gate. Have your website up. It needs to showcase who you are and why you are, right? Because this is about the consumer. Has nothing to do really with you. It's the consumer. What are you solving for them? Tell that story right there on your website and see if you can get traction there. That's number one. Two is, of course, having Amazon as being another direct-to-consumer play. You have to be there. So there are so many opportunities there as far as groups or agencies, one or two people, offerings that can get you on there and get you moving as far as direct to consumer on such a big platform like that. And then as far as brick and mortar, I would work on a regional play. Go to your local 5, 6, 10, 15 grocery stores in your local area and prove out your product. Go in there, ask to put it on shelf, see if sales are happening, and then take that data and use it. Because you need information. You need to know, do consumers buy this product, number one? And number two, do they come back for more? The latter is the most important part. Do they come back for more? If they don't, you've got a problem to solve. So I think you could really define it in a sort of short sequence that I've demonstrated there. But again, we could talk on that for days.
For sure. Do you have much say as the business owner as to where your product gets placed in a grocery store? Like with your product, do you want it to be in the health food section? Do you want it to be next to a bag of chips? Or do you have much say, or does the retailer ultimately decide that?
The retailer ultimately decides that. For us, we're lucky because we're kind of in two sets, at least for now. We have nutrition supplement like a Vitamin Shop. So we know where those are going to sit within their store. Being on that savory side, there's an aisle or a set that has, the salty snacks for us. That's great. And then as far as grocery, when we moved in there and we're going after natural and conventional grocery, we knew our 5-ounce bags would be in the salty snack section. We, of course, are hoping that it's going to be in the better for you set. So there's other brands that are similar as far as makeup being better for you in nutritional profiles and in ingredients that we would be sitting next to, which is a better play for us because people and consumers, shoppers are looking in that area for just that. And we'd like to be there to compete.
I think it's very evident for anyone that knows you or is listening in that you're an entrepreneur at heart with a number of different entrepreneurial endeavors on your resume. For those that might be looking at an entrepreneurial route right now, whether they've lost their job or they're looking to switch gears in this time of transition, what are one or two of the most common misconceptions you've found about entrepreneurship?
Well, it's very difficult. This is not some glitz and glamour business that I'm in as far as being a founder. I absolutely love what I do. I love our team. I love our mission, our why, our roadmap. Everything about what it is that we're doing at IWON is me. And so all of those things feel absolutely amazing, and it's what gets me up in the morning. But the reality is it's very difficult. This is a hard business, as in all businesses are, but food and beverage is very competitive. It's cash intensive, and it's got a lot of different variables that will put you on your ass every single day. And if people assume what they're reading is the majority, as in big headlines, this company raised X, this company IPO'd, this company sold for X, that is not reality. That is a very, very, very small minority of the actual things that are going on in this business. So I think I described it enough right in that little recap there, but they can hopefully hear and feel what it is I'm saying, which is just be very aware of what the realities are. And, you can follow me or follow others that keep it pretty transparent as far as the road and what it looks like each day.
Yeah, that's really powerful insight. I know for me, I've started a business and I was well down the path of starting a second one, and with varying levels of traction gained. But now that I've switched gears a little bit, I'm always very curious and deliberate on asking friends that are starting business and really stress testing what their why is. And you've obviously emphasized that a lot. And I think where I'm coming from that is we live in a world that's obsessed with comfort and startups popping up to remove and apps every pain point of daily life. And while the system has its advantages, it's breeding a generation, myself included, that everything can be done or bought on demand. When a lot of the most important things in life, relationships, businesses built, family ties, they don't happen overnight or at the snap of your fingers. And so you learn lessons around how to suffer well, the power of patience, developing empathy, all these really important life lessons that I didn't ever really experience in prior employment before becoming an entrepreneur. And when you had mentioned about how much time it took and really emphasizing the time, I think that's something for, the younger generations that we're not used to time, because everything is happening instantly with, the rise of Amazon and just technology. And so, I don't know if you have any reflection on that or what you might say to 22-year-old Mark or a bright-eyed entrepreneur.
I've given up certain things in my life over the last 20 years. And I'd say this openly. I unfortunately continue to, I've really not been able to hone in on specific relationships the way that I should. My main focus is I have two young kids. They come first, and then I have this business. And that is just the reality. And I recognize that as I've matured and gotten older, I am very aware. I'm self-reflective. I can see and feel and touch all of these things that I want to get better at. But the reality is this business is a big piece of me. And it does affect other things that are and should be wildly important. So I believe people just need to be reflective. I think that we need to really look at ourselves and find out, is this something that we want to do? Is it big enough? Is that why strong enough to carry ourselves forward, to continually say, personally continually say, this is something that is very important to me, and I'm willing to give up other things because of it. And that's pretty powerful. That's, even as I'm saying it right now, I've got kind of like the chills knowing what it is that I'm talking about, because mine's different, right, than everybody else's. Everybody's is going to be a little different. But again, this isn't for everybody. And people really need to see that and feel it before they sort of get on the journey.
Absolutely. Are there anybody in the food space or in your journey that's been really instrumental, whether that's a role model that or sort of an idol from afar?
I like Daniel from Kind. He's just the first name that comes out, just because I believe he's one of those founders that has a why that's just bigger than the brand. And it's why it's successful. It's why it's been for so long. It's why he maintains ownership of it. It's why he still can talk about positivity and put out what I consider good vibes to bring people together. I think we need more of that. I don't really follow a lot of people other than, of course, on LinkedIn, and people who I admire because of things they've done and things that they do. It's what they're doing now, what they say, how they bring people together, keep it positive, stay away from divisiveness. Those are people that I admire because I believe in that so much. So he really, again, as a founder, he's one that I really go to and point at and say, he's done it right. And I really, hope to at least follow in that sort of path. It'll be my own, but the path is set in the right way.
Definitely. Yeah. Daniel's a great person to look up to. Would you say that it's a good time to be an up and coming food brand? Right now with COVID, it's changed so many elements of, looking how you get onto retail shelves, where for a while, retailers had stopped all new listings. A lot of that's peeling back the layers, but now you have, the Thrive Markets of the world that are becoming these whole new online marketplaces. If you had to rewind the clock 5 years and saying, if you were starting from scratch, do you think it's a good time for someone to be getting into the food space, or, it's such a uncertain time that, keep iterating on ideas, but what would you say there?
Any time is a good time for anything. I'm a believer in that. I don't believe that there is a down, an up, some sort of middle ground as far as when someone should start on a passion of theirs. With that said, we can provide some of the roadmap. We can provide some of the details as far as the obstacles that you are going to come across, not just early, but even if you are emerging. And that's important, because then it at least provides somebody some education, something early that they could look at to really look at their own, passion play and decide, am I going to press play on this? am I going to move it from concept to commerce? And if they can do that, and if they still believe and they reach deep down inside themselves to know that they want to make that happen and they will make that happen, then any time is a good time to start a business.
Concept to commerce. I like that idea. I haven't heard it phrased that way. What do you make of the intense debate regarding plant-based versus animal proteins that the world is currently imbibed in, whether that's from a personal perspective or, kind of wearing your CEO hat? Do you think there's a place for both? Do you think one side is out of line? What do you say from looking at that?
I think there's a place for both. I think there's a place for innovation. I think there's a place for both sides to look at what is real and what is not. People need to understand that when a large funded group with big marketing dollars and concepts are pushing out a narrative, there are ways that they're going to describe it that the other side would not, right? And that's very important. You could say that among anything that we're talking about that has two sides, but that's why it's very important to read into the things that are being said. So as you can see, I'm not going to talk in details, but it's very important to just stay open-minded and keep to the reality of things. With that said, I'm a believer in both because I eat both. I've been open about the fact that I probably eat more plant foods now than I did 5 years ago. I'm a big fitness enthusiast, as in a health enthusiast, but I'm a 6-day-a-week gym goer, now garage gym, for the last 20 years. So my protein intake, for instance, is probably higher than the average and always has been. But I am an advocate for the balance. I'm actually an advocate of balance in all things, which of course includes this, plant-based and meat products. So I would just say that I believe both have a valid point, but for me personally, I know what both do for me physically and mentally. And because of that, I'm going to listen to my body and I'm going to do what's been right and what will be right for me and allow everybody to make their own decisions as far as themselves.
Well, that's great insight and truly one of the best answers I've heard. I think this argument gets very sort of political and extreme a lot of the time. So I think a lot of folks will appreciate that. I want to transition gears a little bit away from food specifically and touch on, so someone like myself, I'm in B2B sales. And frankly, you're a champion for guys like myself. You consistently put out great content on sales leadership, resiliency, and mostly from the perspective of helping those that are being sold to understand the rigors and pressures of the other side. For example, one of your posts the other day was, in quotations, receiving this response as somebody trying to sell into another organization, not a need for us, but thank you, end quotation. And then you said that response or any to a salesperson goes such a long way. If you've ever been in sales, you'll understand. Plus, it's just good mojo. First, I want to say thank you because there's been numerous times where, I've been, grinding away on something and kind of getting down on something, and your thought leadership comes right at the right time. So first, I want to say thank you. And second is, why do you do this? What is your why around this? Is this because, you've been in our shoes and you're still doing that as CEO of IWON?
I've done it for my entire career. And I'd premise it as, if you are a founder or involved with any brand for that matter, sales is what makes the thing turn. And if we all recognize that and leaned into that with some empathy, we would understand my sentiment. Now, I understand why there's people from the other side who complain, and that's what I would call it, complaining, on the same platforms that we're talking about, whereas they get bombarded with specific salespeople or verticals that come at them with very generic content or prospecting. Sure, we all get that, but who cares? Move on. That is just part of what's been going on and what will continue to be. But for the other folks, the men and women out there who are just doing their job, give them some respect. Because again, yes, me being in sales, again, the sales that I'm in now is different, right? Number one is I have an amazing head of sales. Number two is we don't necessarily need to prospect anymore because there are specific people we are going after, right? The pool is smaller. But for all my years before, I could just say this in generality, which is they're just doing their job. And if we could all put an arm around a shoulder every once in a while in sales and supporting those that are prospecting, that's just a better way to live. You know, and this crosses into so many other things that I could talk about, but we're not. I'm just talking in general that just put an arm around somebody every so often. It's just the right thing to do. And if we did that, we focused a little more on that, I think we would just be in a better place. So I think that that's just really the foundation to the theme that I'm putting out there.
Well said. Definitely something I'm going to reflect on after this. So I want to be respectful of your time. I just have a few final questions, Mark. For someone with 20,000 plus LinkedIn followers, you're incredibly quick and decisive in how you respond to emails. Can you share any insight just on how you manage the large number of messages and inbounds I'm sure you probably receive?
I do just that, which is what I noted. I look at most messages that come in. There may be ones that I miss just by chance, but they come in and I can see ones that are directed at me and they'll get a response. For instance, there was one 5 minutes ago and he got a follow-up with me in, I believe I said follow up with me in first week of November. And that's because I quickly glanced, I saw what he was selling. I had seen his name before. I believe he follows me and actually engages. And I think his service is something that we potentially could use at some point. It may not be next month. It may not be even next quarter. But the response is not just a nice thing to do, but he can be on the calendar and it just uplifts him. Again, a prospect coming at you, even if he doesn't, even if he gets a no, or even if he gets a put it on the calendar, that's just a win in my book. That's one. Two is the others that I don't or can't get to or don't have a need for, they get just that. They get this is not a need for us. And then the third, which is just going to be a generic, what I'd consider almost a spam style message, they often do get ignored.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And it's impressive how you manage that. You recently put out a great post regarding supporting friends who start businesses and articulating the importance of those closest around them supporting them. Separately, I had a friend recently make an interesting LinkedIn post introducing the concept of a business shower, similar to a baby shower, but for someone starting a business and rallying their community of friends around them. Considering the state of the world today and the massive pressures facing small and medium businesses and, everything going up to these, large multinational publicly traded companies that are considered essential, what would you say to those that are gainfully employed but have close friends or family members that are entrepreneurs trying to get businesses off the ground?
First, I've seen those posts. I've seen a few of them that have to do with that shower as far as a new business. I think it's a cool idea. In concept, it's really what we should be doing every day. We don't need a shower for it. It's just about rallying around someone who's starting a business. And if you can offer them, some sort of way to help, then do that. Again, I go back to the simplicity of this saying, which is just do the right thing. Just be kind. Let's support one another. Again, I am a believer in that. And then part of my story was a specific one, which is just good for this in context, which is I have a friend who provides a service for our business. He's provided that service for probably the last few businesses I've been a part of, and he's moved around a lot. And I get it. And there's an opportunity that comes in the same vertical he's in. And I have to move with him every time. A pain in the butt, yes, but it's not even a question of whether or not I'm going with him. And that is a value add, not necessarily to us, but to him, because we all need that. We need to know that we have support. We need to know that if I go somewhere, I have someone who's coming with me. Even if everybody else doesn't, I at least can count on this one person. And I just think, again, that that's just the right thing to do.
Similar to the timing and background of, when I started Food for Thought in the early days of COVID, you started an online interview series called Let's Eat. I'm curious on a few things, where viewers can find this series. And I've also really enjoyed your co-host's insight, Adam Circle. And I'm curious just what your connection is to Adam.
So they can find Let's Eat with Mark Samuel on YouTube. I think if you just type that in, you'll find it. I need to get better at really pushing that out because we've really just slammed out. We just did our 50th episode in the last 3 to 4 months, which was quick. So I now need to get really better at pushing that out. So that's item number 1. 2 is I've known Adam for more than 10 years because we were in a similar business 10 years ago, a different vertical, and we've been friends ever since. Smart, knows his stuff, super engaged, has my back the way that I have his, and that makes for a really great opportunity, especially because he's not only in our space now, but he's very good at what he does. And he offers a lot of great value add the same way that I can do for him. And that just makes for a really great friendship above and beyond personal.
What's been the most rewarding part or biggest win for you in terms of interviewing these, different CPG founders and entrepreneurs?
There's just a lot of value. I've been lucky because I kind of just pressed play on the idea. The concept was really started from my own dealings with not being able to get on these bigger playing platforms to get, interviews going because we were so small. So I said, I'll just do it myself. And for me, I'm just neurotic like that. I just go. So now 50 episodes later, I've been able to bring both small starting companies in food and beverage to mid-size to having yesterday was Once Upon a Farm. And that just makes for what I believe good content because, again, the premise is just value add to others in the food and beverage space. Those that are just starting, those that are growing, or those that have a sizable business. I just feel like there's really good nuggets to pull out of each episode if you're listening to what those founders are saying. And that's, again, really the platform and what the purpose is.
That's fantastic. And I'd recommend anyone tuning into this episode to definitely check it out. Final question, Mark. You're someone who lives and breathes food every day, all day, every day. What's your favorite way to reconnect with food?
I've been fortunate to have found and understood what food does for me. And again, that all breeds into the balance idea. It's what IWON Organics is all about, balanced nutritional profile, why it works for me and why it really would work for everybody. Is that when you have a good relationship with food, it makes for an easier process. It makes for an easier way for you to understand what proteins, fats, and carbohydrates do for us and why you can find those in so many different options. Instead of doing what many fall into, which is find themselves into a diet, quote unquote, find themselves into a trend that really doesn't have long-standing opportunity to be successful. So my main focus is really just continuing to do what I found 20 years ago is that works for me, which is proteins, fats, and carbohydrates in all my meals and snacks. 85% of the time, I stick to that routine secondhand. And 15% of the time, I can indulge because I never leave that out either. You want to have a slice of pizza? Go for it. You want to have some ice cream? Go for it. It's all about balance in life, in all things. And that really can be a foundation point for everybody to use and be successful with.
Mark, I know you're a very busy man. Thank you for taking the time to come on Food for Thought. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, brother. You have a great day and a great rest of the week.
You too. Take care.